Well, team, it seems to be working. Hey, team, how we going? Yep, seems to be working. See us first here. Hey, Bird Prospecting, how you going, mate? First person on here. Thank you, mate. I don't know what was happening before. Nicole K, how you going? Love Sharma. I appreciate your patience here, team. I really do. Joshy Fawns, always good to have you here. I don't know what was happening before. I was getting no indication. There was no messages coming up. The counter had gone to zero. I wasn't sure. So this one should be clean. No more dramas, no more excuses. So I've got 11 questions here. And this is to illuminate what happened. For those that don't know, quick summary. Went to the city yesterday, Sunday, the 3rd of August, to go and do some street photography, go to the seafood markets, but then found out that the protest for Gaza, Hamas, Palestine was occurring. You know, I'm not going to pull back. I'm not going to pull punches on that because what I heard was shocking. It was fucking annoying, you know, and it was criminal, you know, and what I'm talking about is the hate speech. It was continually things like, you are Palestinian, we are all Palestinian, river to the sea. For those that don't know, that means the Jordan River to the Mediterranean. It means getting rid of everything and everyone that is not of Palestinian descent between those brackets. You know, that is hate speech, and you've got to call it out where you do. For those that don't understand, I have been to real genocides before in Rwanda, 1995, after the 1994 main million-person massacre in Rwanda, where the Hutus took out reprisal attacks against the Tutsis. I know what it looks like, I know what it tastes like, and I know what it smells like. I've seen it. This is not that. Okay, this is not that. And I'm here tonight to talk about 11 questions that I have and observations that I took that shocked me, to tell you the truth. Well, it shouldn't have shocked me, because it seemed like affiliations, an axis of groups that have come together for a sense of identity and purpose, but not necessarily understanding the real reason they're there. To our Islamic brothers that are watching, to our Christian brothers, to our agnostic people, you're all welcome, and I really appreciate your opinion. But it is important that someone gets up here other than Channel 7, 9, 10 and ABC and actually says something that allows you to also have a microphone. The politicians got to stop appeasing. They absolutely do. And I believe this looks like Australia is supporting a terrorist organisation, because we're definitely not calling it out. So we're going to be back into it now. We're going to start with the 11 questions. Well, we saw the picture of the zombie before, which means we've got a real problem with our homeless in Australia. We need to put a fix on that, treat it like the broken window system of New York, clean it up before it gets any worse. Otherwise, we're going to start seeing victims, you know, of circumstance. Seeing them march around with Al Qaeda flag was crazy, absolutely. I didn't see that. And I also didn't see any burning Australian flags, but that could be because it was goddamn raining. Don't cry for me, Argentina, says Kaz. Again, I went there so you didn't have to. You know, I was there for over 8 hours, soaking wet, you know, but season weather train, I was there. Righto. So the first question was, what is your personal reason for being here today? Or are you just here to show support for the cause? I understand some people are going to come in there absolutely, completely ignorant, but just care for people, care for mankind, care for peace. And of the 100 different situations and places that are kicking off around the world, this is their plight. Okay, I get it, fine. At least admit you're there out of ignorance, but there for the right reason. Okay, I get it, and not understand the slogans that you're being forced to say or the stupid signs from office works that they're carrying. Right, I don't believe in taking children for this political thing unless you want ideology put into those kids' heads to make them the next terrorist group as well. So that was the first question. What are your actual personal reasons for being here? What would you like people to know? The next one is, have you ever left Australian shores, travelled abroad to understand other cultures, third world nations firsthand, so that this is not something that you've just got up one day because it's convenient, because it's close, because it's Sunday, the day of rest, because you don't work, because you want to go out and you want to be part of something. You know, have you ever been outside Australia? Have you ever been to third world countries, outside air conditioning, outside Kentucky tours? Have you embraced other cultures and seen the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes with that? Okay, what cultures do you believe need a lot more fixing? Which ones do you look at and go, holy shit, I wish we did it more like them? Okay, I'm not saying any one particular is at the top for me, but I do want to go to Japan. I do want to go to Nepal, right? I've been to India, lived in Africa, lived in the Middle East, and I do definitely want to go to Japan and Nepal. Chris Jackson, do you reckon they would let us march next Wednesday off the bridge in support of Christianity? No. They also wouldn't let you do it for the white farmers that are attempting to get away from Zimbabwe and South Africa. They wouldn't let you do that either. They also wouldn't let you do it for fathers, I doubt, for the plight of fathers. Okay, the next question I'd ask is, feel free to put your questions down, team. What is your religious affiliation so I know what angle you're coming from? Hey, KP the dog. Are you coming from Islamic, which naturally means you're probably biased towards this, and we'll get into the other questions in a minute. Christian, turn the other cheek. Okay, hug, and hopefully, we make the world a better place. Or agnostic, you're absolutely for sale. You could go either side, depending on the way the wind blows. Georgios Kangu, why all that? Did they remember Hamas, what they did a year ago? How many? Yeah, absolutely, mate. We're getting to that. Was there outrage on the 7th of October? Probably not. Come up with what you think is going to be a good solution there, Georgie. Yeah. Okay, the fourth question. This is a big one, team. Did you know that Palestine is not a recognised state by Australia? It is not a recognised state by the USA. It is a recognised state by UNICEF. I don't give a fuck about UNICEF. They were there, and I believe that they were, the UN as well, were the big reason why the genocide was able to happen in Rwanda. Okay? So, parts of the UN do believe in it. South America believes that Palestine is their own state, etc. If they could have a two-state solution, for Israel and Palestine, I'd be goddamn happy with that. And they tried to do that by giving them Gaza. But they voted in Hamas, and then from there, we saw what happened. Hey, Hero Troy, did you see Ben Quilty took part in the march? The official war artist for Afghanistan. His paintings hang the war memorial. Yeah, we're not always right all the time, are we? But that comes back to the question, why are you there? If someone said, hey, I'm against the tragedy of war no matter where it is, then I'm fine with that. That's a beautiful reason to be there too. But I can't stand beside someone that's calling out river to the sea or we're all Palestinian. No, we're not. It's not even a recognised state in this country. Right? So if they're not a recognised state in this country at all, how are they able to use our legal system to march and have a Palestinian Action Group that is telling Australians that you are going to pay this as taxpayers? You physically have to pay this as a taxpayer, and you don't have any say in it. So the question was, if Palestinian state is not recognised by the USA Australia, how can a Palestinian Action Group force taxpayers to pay for an official event against their will, shut down traffic, and disrupt the entire city, including rail? How is that possible? These are questions for you to ask yourself and then potentially ask others tomorrow. This is where your taxpayer money goes. Okay, that moves into the sixth one. We can come back to any one of these questions. I'd ask them, do you actually support Hamas? Do you actually support Hamas? An extension to that, if I was to say there's 2 million people in Gaza, and you've got the Gazans and you've got Hamas, the terrorist organisation backed by Iran, who's innocent? Is it because you're female? Is it because you're not Hamas? What if you're the parents of Hamas? What if your children are Hamas? What if, regardless of what it was, your law says if someone was LGBT over there, that you'd throw them off a building? Even if you weren't Hamas, that's just what you'd do. Who are the innocent people? Is it children? If so, what age? Who are the innocent people? Hamas uses Palestinians, Gazans, as shields. They also withhold supplies. They push them out there so that they will be targeted and become martyrs for the cause. Yep. It's a terrible thing, and it's very, very sad. You can't not feel sorry for people that are caught between a rock and a hard place, and I do know that a lot of the Gazans do not want Hamas in charge of them, but would you open your mouth and say, I don't want this here? You know what's going to happen. You'll be going up for building as well. But it'd be important, and I think some people would not be able to hold back their opinion if you said, do you support Hamas? I think they'd say yes. They would say they support a terrorist organisation. And I wish that David Jones would divorce themselves from the scarves. You know, I thought it was a David Jones runway for models. Everywhere you looked was that black and white design. You know, for those that remember David Jones, that is. 7. This is a big one. This is a big one. Number 7, should Islam be forced to take all refugees from Gazan Crisis who wish to leave? Okay. How come none of the nations around Gaza are accepting them? I can tell you why. Because Egypt, it came back on them when they took Hamas. You know, when they took Gazans in, they had instability and terrorist attacks within Egypt. So did Lebanon. Whoever takes the people from Gaza ends up with chaos in their streets. They're that cousin you don't want to invite over. It's the will of the majority of Australians to support. It's the will of the majority of Australians to support Palestine. I don't believe it is. I don't believe it is at all. You've got less than 100,000 people turned up, you know, for something that is out of 27 million. I do not believe that the majority of Australians support Palestine. And if they do, I believe it's from a humanitarian angle. Right? But if none of the states are saying that they want to take, the Arab states are saying they're going to take the actual people from Palestine, why should a Christian nation? We're getting to that question. It's the will of the people. Major Andrew Fox had a really light chat with the trigonometry guys on the topic and gave his expert opinion on the war and tactics. Very interesting. That'd be very interesting, Jacko. Instability is what you do to other nations to cause discourse to allow you to take over. Is this a ploy? Is this a recruiting tool for Islam within Australia with 3.9% to make that bigger, to cause instability, to cause sympathy? Who knows? Who knows? But we know the charter for Islam is to take over all Christian nations and other denominations. Why wouldn't they? I disagree, J.R. Wiseman. It's the will of the small group of loud, angry Australians. And if you had been there, you would have seen they're an unusual looking crowd too. They didn't look like the normal people who were beside them getting on cruise ships, drinking coffee and being happy. Our duty is to our people. That is the big plan for them. All the illegal immigrants at Europe, England already look like Muslim countries. Yep, and you can't go backwards, and it is not good for your nation, and they will have no sympathy for you, and women will cry for the rest of time when they lose all of their rights. I hope so, JR. I really do hope that it is definitely for humanitarian. But I've got to stop you there because they were talking for the murder of Jews in front of children yesterday. So that's not humanitarian. That's not peace. That is hate speech. And that's against the very doctrine of what they talk about. And yes, they were saying it everywhere. I've actually got it here on one of the videos I took. I'll probably have it come out. So do you believe that only Islamic nations should be responsible for taking any, ever, Islamic refugees? I believe that is the answer. No Christian nation should ever have to take an Islamic refugee, and they're not legal refugees either, and we're about to get into that. Right. Do you think Christian countries should be forced to take non-qualifying refugees if Islamic countries refuse under the third safe country rule or the first country of asylum principle with refusal? What that means is they do not have, one, they're not an identified state by Australia, the Palestinians. So also where they are in the Middle East, there is so many nations they had to skip by to get to Australia if they choose to come or try to get asylum in Australia. That means they've got to go past all of their Arab cousins to get to a first world nation, which is Christian. You know, they have no right to do that. okay, their first or their third country, okay, if they believe that Israel, they can't get a fair go, which they can, because there's almost a split majority with Arabs living in Israel completely peacefully. But if they were to go to Egypt, or they were to go to over to the West Bank, or if they were to go to Lebanon, Syria, all of these different countries, shouldn't that be where they're going to? Sash, not all Muslims are terrorists, but hatred should be condemned. Absolutely. The problem is for our brothers that are Islamic is they're not allowed to speak up. If they speak up, what do you reckon is going to happen to them? Well, they come to Australia because I came to Australia because of my parents. Yep. We've got one of the best standings in the world for economic first world nation living standards. Not to mention, Islam also wants to take over, okay, all the other denominations to spread, okay, the word and the religion of Islam. Yep. There's a charter. Yep. No one is saying here that you're a bad person because you're Islamic. Again, I served over in the Middle East. Some of my best friends while I was over there, El Gora, absolutely fantastic. My barber, Cutthroat Rosa, never sliced me, but I told him he could go deeper if he wanted. He didn't. We used to laugh and we used to enjoy. Genocide should be condemned. It's not genocide, mate. It is not genocide. Genocide was what Hamas was doing to Israel. What Israel is doing is targeted attacks, and food is being withheld by Hamas from the people of Gaza, selling it to them. Do some research, mate. Hey, Judah, how you going, mate? How you doing? Call out to all of those that are in the School of Infantry at the moment. It is important to not necessarily always have a political or religious opinion, but it is important to know what you're talking about. Okay, I've got ignorance in my heart too in different areas, but I'm always open to listen to you. I've got Islamic friends, I've got Buddhist friends. Wait 2 seconds. Hey, hello. Hey, you all right? 2 seconds. I'll be back in 2 seconds. When I come back, we'll get back on with it. I've got to quickly hello, give someone a kiss. Hey, Tim, I'm back. Oh, some things to read. We've had problems here in Australia, like the homeless people dying on the streets. Yep, we need to clean that up, give them dignity and help them. I believe in that, Georgie. Every time I see people, I do not walk past them. You know, it sucks because sometimes you feel like they take you for the piss out of you. But if it's cold, I don't judge. I give a coffee, I give a burger. Just got some really bad news just then. I don't know if you could hear me in the background down there, but anyway. Righto. Okay. Let us know we're back. Hey, Chris, daughter's going well, Kaz. She now knows what mud is like to eat, sleep, and work in. She can dig holes, start generators, cut down trees, fill sandbags, and blow shit up. She's learning heaps. By the time she comes home at Christmas, there, Chris, you know, your family's going to be complete. It's just going to be military stories all around the table. Politics as well. Get ready for that. So I believe I said that one. Should Islam be forced to take all refugees from Gaza crisis who wish to leave? My answer is yes. Yep, yes. 8. Do you think Christian countries should be forced to take non-qualifying refugees of Islamic countries? Okay, so we've said this one. Under the third safe country or first country of asylum principles. No, they should not have to take them. Now, as a matter of fact, you know, I don't believe that Islamic countries should ever have to take Christians, and I do not believe that Christians should ever have to take Islamic. Now, they are completely two different modalities of existence. I believe that they are fresh and salt water. I don't believe they naturally, they can sit at a table and break bread together, sure. But there is a greater agenda for the spreading. Did you buy coffee or for the bloke walking in the rain? Not him. I didn't. He didn't get one. I did try to get a translator. I did pick up garbage wherever I went to make a little bit of difference in the city. I don't think that he was open for conversation. Yeah. But the very first person I spoke to at the train station, he didn't even actually ask me, can you buy me lunch? He just said, I'm hungry, with a crutch, but he could walk fine without it. And I said, okay. He goes, are you going to buy me food? And I went, okay, good calm for the day. Yes, I will. You know, and you think they're going to buy themselves a croissant? No. I'll get that large burger there, get me a Coke, also get me a packet of chips and all that. They'll always take you the piss. Yeah. And if you don't do it, their demands, it goes from a can I please have to fuck you instead. So they do know the difference between right and wrong. They're good actors. Number 9, could this appear like Australia is supporting a terrorist group, understanding that the message of what's happening at the moment is going to go all across the world, that Australia had a massive march, shut down one of their national icons, you know, so that people could march with scarves that also, you know, support a terrorist group. You know, you don't want to be taking sides in this. Is it Australia's, what would you say? Sorry, guys, I just got some bad news a couple of minutes ago. Is it any of our business? I would say it's always our business when someone screams in the night that can't help himself, but not when they're backed by a terrorist organisation and they started the fucking fight. Let's just remember that too. And also remember what they would do to Israel if they could. Okay. Okay, number 10. What would your solution for the Gaza conflict be? That is the biggest question you can ask. That is the biggest question you can ask any of these people, because they've got complaints, they've got whinges, but none of them have answers. And that is the troubling part. If they said, what do we got there? I'm going blind, team. Stagey. Is this the stage, man? How very gracious of you, mate. You're going to get the Kraken and the Nutsu cow. The White Warrior for that one.
I accept.
Okay, and let's also give him the Kraken. This is the hug of the mother-in-law from South Australia. If you go to Centrelink and then put on your Tinder profile, 1 metre from here to all the ladies available, and you'll come online is, I've got a job and I love single mums.
It's a Kraken. Feed him a mother-in-law. That should make him happy. Welcome, calamari.
So, Stacey, mate, I totally appreciate you, mate. And that, do you have a question that comes with your generosity, sir? Can't call you sir. I know who you are. Mate, looking forward to having a talk with you soon. And also, for those that don't know, as part of the channel, if you are part of the members, not the Patreon with this with the link down below, but if you were part of the actual members and you were one of the voice of the people, the bat phone number is waiting for you. You can speak to the bat phone, you know, if you're the voice of the people. If you're a member, you're automatically going to be part of the launch of the Money Club. If you want to be part of the Money Club, then you need to go over and actually join in Money Club. So I know the only thing we talk about when we're on a members only chat will be talking about money, the relationship with money. Stacey, can we get some thumbs up? Stacey's just kept the lights on. Stacey reckons his money is free. He loves his job so much. Mate, I really do appreciate it, mate. It's not cheap to keep the channels going, that's for sure. Thank you, mate. Tommy, they were installed there so long ago, it's pretty much impossible to move them unless they lose a war and kicked out. Not going to happen. Absolutely. Yeah. And just so you know, I did have a couple of good conversations with people of the Islamic community before I actually went and did this stream, just so they are aware that if a video comes up, that it's not from a point of anti-Islam. This is a critical piece of Australian history, because it happened yesterday, that needs to be addressed. And these questions will allow you to go and ask these questions of someone else. What is the solution? It's not to wear a scarf and yell out from the river to the sea. That is not the answer. You know, I will, Benny. Wait 2 seconds, my man. Two-state solution, yes, but Gaza can't be trusted to have a two-state solution. We saw what they did. Who is innocent in Gaza? Is it anyone? We don't know. We do know that there is strategic assaults happening against targets. And one of the other things we haven't put in there is how come under Islamic rule that they have to be able to put their buried their dead in 24 hours, but they're not releasing dead hostages back to the Israeli people so they can make peace with their murdered children. They're retaining the bodies. They're not releasing the hostages either. You know, the innocent people of Gaza that overwhelmingly outnumber Hamas aren't getting rid of them. So come on, what is the solution? Is there a embargo, or sorry, a countdown where you have 2 weeks, 10 days, 3 days to get your shit together, and access will be opened, and everyone that is willing to leave then goes to the country that's going to take them on? But then who owns the responsibility if you allow Gazans to come into your country? What is the filtration of Hamas going to be? And then your government is responsible for any victims within your country that allowed, okay, for a terrorist organisation to leach into your population. Yeah. You can't keep inviting those cousins over that ruin your trust every time they do. Ruin your Xbox, drink the red cordial, and then say that tequila is actually good for them. I'm talking a bit shit there. A question, everything always, there must be an investigation into the funding. UNWRA had ties. This country needs to organise in reality. Everyone's intention is so divided. We have no medium that isn't under someone else's control. Absolutely. It is completely corrupt. The message is corrupt. The organisers of that rally would have been getting paid There would have been organisations that are affiliated with this where people are potentially getting paid, recruiting program for Islamic spread within a Christian nation, absolutely. Dysfunction within a first world nation, of course. It's really sad. It really is. There are Muslims trying to reform it, but it's a huge mountain. Look, I totally agree, but could you imagine how dangerous it is for them, understanding that Islamic people are also the biggest victims of Islamic violence? Remember that. Benny, can you tell us a bit more about the Money Club? Okay, Benny, this is so important to me to make videos that I actually have a passion for, a real passion for. I'll quickly show you something we're making in the background here, my man. Seeds Dreams. Wait a sec. So at the moment, what we're looking at doing is creating a fun group, that talks about our relationship with money. Where are we? Let's go down. And 2 seconds. And what we're going to do is screen share this. Okay. Okay, so this is some of the icons that are going to be made that are going to be part of the Money Club. And what it's talking about is different funds. These will all be tokens that can be moved around on boards to show where money's being allocated to different sectors, etc. That's just a brief overview, and we'll come back to that. But what it's going to be is I've got a lot of regrets in my life, a lot of regrets. Okay, and all of those sometimes are geared around the way I treated people when I was younger. Okay, and also the mistakes that I made fiscally that could have been alleviated with financial advice if the systems had been changed when we were younger. So, Benny, all you got to do is be a member. You are a member already. That's why your name is green there. As soon as you're part of the Money Club, there will be videos where we change our relationship. So those that are 18, 19 years old, 22, 23, 50 years old, determine who you're trying to help, yourself, okay, your children, okay, or your future. What are you going to do to take hold of the reins to break the cycle of poverty that we have in this world so that you can set yourself up and have that stability of the mind, knowing that in the back play that what you're doing now is accumulating, compounding, and improving, well, guaranteeing that you are going to have a fantastic life. I can't guarantee your health, but what I can guarantee is with an education that we didn't have, you'd be in a lot better place than me. And at 54 years old, a lot of you have got a 30-year head start on me, and time in the market means millions. Fisho, do Muslims trying to form? Yes, they are. It's extremely dangerous, absolutely. Might have to get into it. MMA recapped. Guys, it's one thing to strengthen your body. You've also got to strengthen your mind, but you've also got to strengthen your goddamn wallet, because all of these things give you options, and options give you clarity, and clarity gives you peace. And peace is something this world needs more of. I can guarantee two things that are coming to this world, and they're coming fast. One of them is going to be universal basic wage if it's not here already, and that is what you'd probably call NDIS now, or disability pensions, the dole. And that's basically paying you to sit down, stay at home, get fat, shut up, do not leave your house. Just stay out of our way. But what's going to come with that is also, that was the carrot, the stick is going to look like a social credit score. And we're starting to see that. Are we a capitalist nation in Australia? Maybe. Are we becoming socialist, communist? We're getting closer. We're getting closer all the time. The fact that this march was allowed to happen when Palestine is not even an identified state by Australia, that's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy that the courts, overruled decisions, said yes for a state that doesn't even exist in the eyes of Australia. That's pretty bizarre, isn't it? But I also believe that AI is about to create, I think Hollywood is dead, it cannot come back. I believe that what you're going to be looking at next, and I'm seeing this all over AI, when you're making things like this thumbnail that's behind me now, that it won't be long before we're going to have Stagey starring in the life and times of Stagey. Where did he live? Stage land. Okay. He didn't want to be a hero, but when they came after him, the mob, they forced his hand. And Stagey showed them that he was the next unfit John Wick 2. It is going to be so addictive while people are so secluded from reality, hope of relationships, that I believe that what it'll become is a crutch for people, and it'll be so addictive that it'll be impossible to get people off their lounge chairs. And that's where they mean by you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. If you had the magical power or to retrain the Palestinians in Israel to make them get along, what would the retraining be? Well, this is the weird thing, Stagey, because it already happens. In Israel, there is Arabs everywhere you go, and they do get along fine. As soon as people have prosperity, jobs, and they love their children and the welfare of their children more than their religion, and they're able to question their own religion, then you can have stability, you can have peace, and you can have harmonious relationships. But this is very much going to be like Ukraine and Russia. Those days are done. The blood has been shed. There needs to be a separation, and that will never happen while ever Gaza has those people in there. I know what they're going to do with Gaza. Maybe give it back to the Israelis, and then, because if you box people in, shit happens, doesn't it? Yep. But I do believe they should be resettled, and it should be within their own people states. Mr. Dino, what do a bunch of 20-year-old hipsters from Fitzroy think they're actually going to change in the Middle East for a side that ironically hates them? Exactly. And that was one of the very weird things, Mr. Dino, that I noticed, that you saw people from every fringe group were part of this march. And when you saw guys that looked like Middle Eastern gangsters that were walking beside people with an LGBT flag, or transgender, I was like, whew, do you know what would happen to you if you guys met in a different postcode? Yeah. It is very sad. Yep. So do you guys have an answer? Over to you guys. Do you have an answer? Let us know. I do appreciate you being here tonight. It can be a hard topic. It's a dangerous one to touch. And that is a weird thing. When a subject becomes dangerous to touch, why is it? There's no Christian going to have a go at you. I heard there was burning of the flags. I didn't see it. I know that God didn't condone the march because it rained cats and dogs. It was horrible. The police, there was thousands of them. That would have cost millions of dollars for that march to occur. And what did it actually do? All it did was create division, and tell the people of Hamas, that what they're doing is working, making martyrs of those that they push in front of their own bayonet, and being the victim. We are slowly but surely losing our ways as Aussies, and now we have to show and prove our age. Digital ID. It's not just for the kids, it's to count how many of us will follow the crowd like sheep. Balbert, I 100% agree with what you just said. 100%. And that's another dangerous reason to make a video like this, because once people know exactly what you think out loud, then they can put you in some sort of box where you belong. And then from there, you can be isolated and taken care of, digitally. Sash. We saw what happened to people with different views, during that period, and the way they were dealt with. And it was horrible. It made you think, is this Australia? Did we go over to war zones to go and help other people to come home, to be able to look people in the eye and go, is this the way I get treated for actually having some sort of semblance of an opinion on something that should be everyone's interest, the town square? Question everything always. Yes, it's quite sad, actually. It is. It is. Because I believe that Australians are very good, very gracious people. And we do have enough problems in Australia that could be getting addressed that are far greater for the Australian cause, than what the Gazan Israeli conflict is. Understanding that this was started on the 7th of October. And I didn't see these people that were in this march crying for the atrocities that were forced on the Israeli people. I think the tragedy goes both ways. And it is very, very horrible to see, when children are the victims of politics and religion gone wrong. It's disgusting. Mandatory service might build more unity. I believe in national service, but it's not to necessarily make us a stronger army. It's to make us a better people. I talk about it all the time. My solution is that everyone should look at their world like they're in a village of 100 people, not in a village of 27 million or 1.4 billion, allowing the crowd to be the camouflage for the misdeeds of your soul. Sounds like a shirt. What I mean by that is if you started protesting things in a village of 100, especially if you were protesting against bad behaviour, against something that was counter-tribe, against another tribe having more rights than your tribe that you're part of, that'd be like being in the Wallabies, born in Australia, or we'll say that you're an immigrant to Australia, a Kiwi, and you're playing for Australia, but as soon as you're not on the field, you're hanging out with the All Blacks and the other team. You're like, what's going on here? What are you doing? Whose team are you on? The clarity should be undeniable that you are here for Australia and for the good of Australians. It's not like Islam is a persecuted religion within Australia. They're allowed to play their fucking noxious music. I hate it, but that's them. I'm just not going to live beside a mosque. But I don't care what religion someone is. I care about what's in your heart. That's all I care about. No matter where you're from, no matter what gender, no matter what religion. But imagine if you said to the people there, so if Australia gets in strife and you've immigrated to Australia, are you going to defend Australia or are you going to defend Islam and fight against Australians? Be an interesting question. They always say if you don't like it, get out of the kitchen. You just described our so-called leaders. Sash, yes, that's how I look at it. Why should I bother unless my government bothers about? Yeah, you know what? Because there's great people everywhere. There is great people everywhere, and Australia has always stood up against the bully, and we've also gone to the scream in the night. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, and it was sad what happened with Gallipoli. I felt sorry for the Turks in Gallipoli. Farmers getting told war is coming to you, and they're going, what's this about? Who is Germany? I don't know those guys. Who are Japanese? I don't know them either. And who are the Australians that want to come and kill us? What's the story? Honestly, don't believe that should have taken place. It just divides us even more. If we did that in their country, we'd never leave it on peace. No, we'd be gone. It's not even about Palestine versus Israel. It's about Australia versus these Australian citizens. Yep. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad I went and got wet on your behalf. Some of the things I did not like was when I heard them yelling and chanting with children to the river, to the sea. Again, we know what that means. Okay, that means exterminating everyone between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean. That is not good. I nearly had a drama. The very first person I came against was someone from the transgender community that was had a river to the sea sign, and they tried to have a little bit of a go when I told them that was hate speech, everything they stood against. And the words you've got on that, river to the sea, I bet you call Donald Trump a Nazi, but you're the only one that's sprouting exactly the same thing as the guy with the mustache. They told me to go fuck off, and I reminded them that don't get me mixed up with a pacifist. So I'm glad it didn't go any further than that, but I was getting pretty angry very quickly at the message, because that should not be being sprouted in Australian streets. So this is what, I'm glad to see that I didn't see any damage happening anywhere. I thought they were going to go and attack the Apple store, but this was what was happening. Bam, in the middle of the street, behind this crowd is the Apple store, which I thought was going to get targeted. But listen to what they're saying. So, Australians in the middle of the street chanting for the death of Jews. Yeah, nice one. We did take a lot of photos, and the other thing that was quite funny too is when you get to the end of Chinatown, do you know what's waiting for you? Bam, the Bank of China. Where do you reckon all the money flows out of our country? Bam, straight out of these areas, straight out of their businesses, straight into the Bank of China, with the biggest signs waiting at the end of the street on some of the nicest real estate. There is 1,000 tributaries leading out of Australia, but none of it leading in to help Australians. The Turks were actually committing genocide at that time. How can you feel sorry for them? Brady, sorry, I didn't know about, I didn't actually know what was actually happening there, and I'm always learning too. So I wasn't aware of the Turkish genocide that was happening at the time under the Ottoman Empire, which ultimately ended up getting put down after the battles of Romani, etc., over in Israel. Yeah, well, that was actually in Sinai, Romani is. But yeah, so the takeaway for today is I'm glad I went. I came away far more confused than what I went into that conversation with them. And I think to myself, what sort of conversations are happening around the family tables? What sort of hatred is happening from Australians against Australians and by those that carry the pen but not the sword? Because at the end of the day, we have people all over Australia, intelligent people, that seem to hate the country and are quite happy to vote for Australians that carry swords to go over and be in harm's way and come back on caskets with Australian flags draped and still not get up on Anzac Days or Remembrance Days to pay homage to those that fell for the scream in the night, all while, accepting the teat of the government while poisoning their own nation at the same time. It's bizarre. But then again, it was happening in Vietnam, wasn't it? With the anti-war sentiment, where they didn't just take it out on the politics, they took it out on the soldier. And that was disgusting, because soldiers only need to pull triggers and swing the bayonet when politicians fail at their job. The executive arm, the kinetic arm, the executioner's arm of the politician is the soldier. We're not allowed to have an opinion at all, despite the fact we're the only ones that do the dying. Yeah, the saddest part is that there are young Aussies born people that are going against their ancestors forward as Anzacs, absolutely. Spiritual battle bleeding into the world. I heard when I was talking with the awesome gentleman of the God Squad, where they speak about has heaven fallen? Are we seeing the last days? Are we seeing what Rome looked like when people realise we've made such a mess, of this city? Why would we want to live here anymore? I love Australia. I'd put the uniform on again. I've lost weight, and muscle since I took it off. So it'd still fit fine. But you're being represented by great people right now at the School of Infantry, at Kapuka, around the Australian Defence Force. Is there enough of us? No. Are they trained well? Yes. Are they ready for whatever's coming next? No one knows what's coming up next. No one knows. You can't be special enough. How cool was it in a teenager in the 90s? It was awesome. I wasn't a teenager. I was an adult. But in the 70s and 80s, hell yeah. How many pedals could you do on your Red Lion, BMX with tufts on? If you didn't have tufts, you had a card and pegs. Yeah. Sash. Anyway, does he have anything more, team? Does he have anything more? Sorry about the disturbances at the start of this. We fought them, but now younger people join them. We fought them, but now younger people join them. I'm not sure what that one's about. Brady, all WF members in Australia are entrenched in universities. Yep, the professors, lecturers, brainwashing the young minds. Absolutely. Glad I stumbled across your channel tonight. F15, mate, it's a pleasure to have you here, mate. This is what we do. It's important to not necessarily have a perfect video every time with cuts, with, what would we say? With acrobatics involved in it. It's good to see that people are able to communicate and talk to you in a way that there is no AI voiceover, that the conversation is real, that this is the way you could talk at 11 o'clock at night at a barbecue. You should be talking that way at 6 o'clock at night when you have your first ginger beer. If you're not playing professional sport, you don't need to talk about professional sport all night. Albo is leveraging his position in government to use it in form of violence as a selling point for his policies. Agreed, and we saw that happen with the previous governments around the sickness. Thomas, if we don't have our own drone fighting force, probably not ready at all. I don't believe the drones are the be-all, end-all. I think they are a topic at the moment, and I think that there will be another technology that can defeat that. What is it? I don't know. I don't know. Our people are not the problem. The direction is. That sounds like a great shirt. Our people are not the problem. The direction is. I like that. Make people proud of their country. But we have groups that are trying to make us feel like we've got something to be ashamed of. And I don't think Australians have got anything to be ashamed of. I love you, fuckers. I love the fact that you'll invite someone to get over the fence, no shoes, come to the barbie, here's the cricket bat. How you going, buddy? Respect the fact they don't drink. Let their kids come and play with yours. Make them Australians. I love that. I do love it. But the first thing we're seeing is people are walking past bad behaviour. Bogan kids that are acting like dickheads in shopping centres. Pull them up. Let them know. Stop. Get off your scooter inside Westfields. Turn that shit off. Always stand near a group of 4 or 5 youth when they're in JB Hi-Fi that you know about to do something bad. Now, if you see a kid doing a wheelie on his bike, let him know that's awesome. So he feels like old people aren't against him. Pick up some litter and let people see you pick up litter. Do all those little things that make Australia a little bit more like Singapore, but also like Australia used to be. Have Australian music from the 90s playing loud. None of the rap shit. Hey, you, what do you reckon about the idea of Australia seeing China as a closer ally? Wouldn't building a more balanced relationship open up bigger trade? We've got to start looking after our own interests. China's not our friend, mate. China is not our friend. It's like we were talking about before with the vampire familiar. If you take them in, USA is our friend. USA is, at the moment, not as much, but I tell you what, China's been putting a lot worse tariffs on us than what America has forever. Also stealing our intellectual property, also taking our different parts of Australia from us. They've been stealing off us for fucking generations. China could help themselves by opening up China to immigration. I think that's what China should do. Discussion never should have happened. Very sad. Question. Return the old and true, or what's new and coming will eclipse you. Absolutely. The stand you walk past is stand you accept. Toddy, absolutely. Totally agree. The hard thing is when you walk past something and you hear it and then you make it your problem, sometimes it can get you in the shit, and that happens to me too. Ruddy, Australia must move away from the current political model and into being a sovereign nation. I agree. Yeah, that's, do you mean like a republic? Stagey, what do you think about these bold British soldiers joining the Australian Army? I am happy with British soldiers joining the Australian Army, but the problem is when they come over, it's old dog, new tricks. They don't want to learn Australian tactics, but they forget they're not more accomplished on the battlefield than what we are. So I've worked with a lot of British soldiers, in Australia, lateral transfers, and sometimes you would catch them teaching non-doctrine to Australian soldiers. That's a problem. I'm on everyone's shit list, apparently. Not mine. Well, what do you say? Sash, we love your question, everything, always. Look, this is, you got freedom of speech in here, team. We've got freedom of speech in here. You know, you can say what you want. We've got the microphone to you. You know, if someone says something that is disrespectful to someone else, then it can get taken a certain way, but otherwise, what haven't I is probably easier. I haven't seen you say anything bad yet, mate. Thanks so much for this tonight. Kaz, man, much appreciated, dude. No worries, D-man. Guys, let's call this a wrap. When I slipped away before, I got some pretty bad news. Really big thanks for Stagey. You know, to all of our Christian, Islamic, Buddhist people that love the nation, that love their family, and want peace on earth, two-state solution. Guys, you know, what can we do? What can we do? Yeah. All we need is for the bleeding to stop and for the politicians to listen and get this shit done and get it done right. Let's stop the killing. Absolutely. We've got enough problems coming, you know. There's no reason why there can't be a reformation of all religions and make people start to realise, you know, the harmony of the village is at stake. You know, let's be better adults. Let's be better people, you know, but also do some research in what we're fighting for. Because, you know, if you listen to the wrong captain, you might just find out you're talking to the devil. See you later, team. Take it easy. Love your family. Love yourself. K-Dog, great stream. Kaz, great to have you, K-Dog. He's a good-looking man. Gravy. Thanks for always keeping it real, Kaz. Mate, I wasn't going to touch this topic, but I thought it was important. We're all humans. Remember that first. Absolutely. We don't produce anything here anymore. Our fuel, weapons, and ammunition, we're screwed. Only if people see that we're isolated. So let's not be isolated. Good night, Jennifer G. Good night, girls and boys.